we're actually never in the body in the first place. We think we are in the body. I've got to step back a few steps here. All that we ever know is an arising in experience. That's all, Okay, this physical world I'm experiencing now is an experience I am having. I think I am directly in contact with, let's call it the real world. But we know, this is one thing that science absolutely knows beyond any doubt. What is happening is light is coming in, whatever light is, hitting the eye, triggering different cells in the retina, which are sending messages back to the brain. And the brain very cleverly puts it all together and creates this representation of what is out there. It's brilliant. The brain is putting all this information together and integrating it with sound and sensations from the body. It's integrating it all into this experience of there being a world. And this isn't to say there is not a world. I'm a firm believer in the world. Absolutely. But the world I experience is not the world itself. The world I experience is something, is a representation in my awareness. Now, that is all, in that sense, that is all appearing in me, you could say. It's in my awareness, it's in me. It's all a manifestation. It's actually a manifestation of consciousness. Go back another step. The world, all we can say about the physical world, all we can actually say is there is information. An electron, no one knows what an electron is, but there's information. It has something we call charge. We don't know what charge is. It has something we call mass. It has various bits of information which we can measure. And that's true of everything. The light coming into the eye is just information. And this is where some of the leading edge areas in physics are going, is saying that the world ultimately is composed of information. There's just information which appears to us as, mass, whatever. So that information is appearing as this in consciousness. This. All of this is how information appears in consciousness. So I'm living in information made manifest in awareness. It's like waves on an ocean. All waves are composed of water. The waves don't actually exist as things, but they're movements of water, which we see as waves. And you could say this is much more complex, but this is all movements of consciousness. It's all activity in consciousness, which I experience as this world. And so I then say, well, and this is the mistake we make, but it's a perfectly natural and maybe necessary mistake in terms of our biological survival. We say, where am I in this world? And we can say, where is the body? The body is part of this creation. My experience of my body is part of the information which I am experiencing, representing. And so it is easy then to say, well, I am where my body is. And there are two senses of I. There's what I've been talking about, the I as the pure awareness, the observer. And then there's the individual sense of I by which we normally conduct our lives, which is I, Peter Russell, blah, 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 which is based on the body. And so I naturally identify that separate sense of self with my body. And that's really important for our survival, because I need to take care of this body, I need to identify with this body, to look after it, to make sure it's not in danger, that it's well nourished, etc., etc. So that individual separate sense of self is identified with this physical being. And then we make the mistake of saying, well, therefore the I that is, we mistake the I that is awareness for the I that identifies with the body. And so we think, well, then I say my awareness is here. And yet, all of this is in my awareness. So we start beginning to see the paradox here. All of this is in my awareness, and yet in this model of the world, I am placing my awareness here. It can't be both. The reason we place our awareness here is because we identify with the central point of my awareness. So the central point of my awareness is, for the eyes, it's behind the eyes somewhere. For the ears, it's between the ears. So I sense that I am here, between the ears, behind the eyes, and because the brain is in the head, we make the mistake of thinking, therefore awareness is in the brain. And that's the way most people think about it. But you could start doing a thought experiment. I mean, supposing we moved your eyes down to your stomach, we put your ears on your waist, and now you start walking around the world. Where are you going to be? Where are you going to experience yourself to be? The central point of your perception, your visual and auditory perception, and they're the two senses which give us a sense of location in space. The other sense, body, skin, yes, that does a bit, but basically it's vision and sound, where we identify ourselves in space. You would then experience yourself to be like 3 foot lower in the world. You'd be coming around from here. This is where your central point of perception is. What's interesting, you can now do this experiment with virtual reality. And it's an area of virtual reality called telepresence, where you put a robot in another room, and it's got 2 video cameras, you've got stereoscopic vision, you've got microphones. This robot is then connected to you here, and you've got a virtual reality headset. But your information, the central point of your information, is now coming from another room. And within 2 to 3 minutes, the person starts feeling themselves to be in the other room. They begin to lose that awareness of being here where their body is, and they feel themselves to be where the central focus of their perception is, which is where the video cameras and microphones are. And you could even have them say, they might think, well, I know my body is back there. But how do you know? You could actually quietly move the body out somewhere else, and then that would be a complete illusion. So they're actually having an out-of-body experience. But the point is, we never had an in-body experience truly. We identified ourselves as being in the body, because that's where our central information was coming from. So when we have an out-of-body, what we call an out-of-body experience, telepresence is one of them, but it's normally, it occurs meditation, often during sleep. What's happening is, for some reason, and I have no explanation for this whatsoever, for some reason, the central point of your information is now coming from up on the ceiling, or outside, or somewhere completely different. You are accessing information from a different point of view. So, it isn't that we were in the body and are now out of the body. It's the central point of our information was where the body is. And now, for some reason or another, the point of view has shifted to somewhere else. What is happening is the point of view has shifted from the body to somewhere else. But it's not that I have moved out of the body.